Hello and welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I'm your paleo teacher, Jen, and it's time for Fossil Friday. If there ever was a terror of the skies, Quetzalcoatlus was that. It was the largest flying animal to have ever lived, and it lived during the late Cretaceous period in the Maastrichtian Age in what is now Texas. It was discovered in 1971 in the Javelina Formation within Big Bend National Park, which is a huge fossil area. The Javelina Formation consists mostly of sandstones and mudstones with some bentonite, indicating that it was sort of a fluvial floodplain setting. And it was about 250 miles away from the Western Interior Seaway. So to give you an idea, here is a late Cretaceous map. Our seaway has shrunk a great deal. Big Bend is way over here, right in the little bend above my head in Texas, and the ocean is obviously way up here. So they lived fairly far away from the ocean, which means they were not likely to have been fish eaters like other big pterosaurs. Quetzalcoatlus lived alongside many famous and notable dinosaurs like Alamosaurus, Torosaurus, and even Tyrannosaurus. There are two recognized species of Quetzalcoatlus, Q. northropi and Q. lawsoni. Q. northropi is the bigger of the two species and was the first one discovered. It was named for John Knudsen Northrop, who designed tailless aircraft, which Quetzalcoatlus resembled. And then Q. lawsoni was named after Douglas A. Lawson, who discovered the genus in the first place. The two species appeared to have coexisted, but it seemed that they lived in different habitats. Q. northropi are found in channel deposits, so in river deposits like down here, whereas Q. lawsoni are found in abandoned channel lake deposits, so like this up here. They've been cut off from the river supply. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate because I love doing this, and I feel that unfortunately paleontology has been a bit late to the ontogeny game, and from what I could find, the only differences that they gave between the two species was size and the facies that they're found in. But guess what? It could mean also that instead of having two separate species, we're just seeing juveniles and adults. Many vertebrates have different body proportions at different ages and even different behaviors. Look at human infants. Our proportions, big heads, little bodies, right? Like, our proportions aren't the same as when we're an adult. And then, behaviors. Let's take a look at elephants. Young male elephants will live together in little herds until adulthood, where they're primarily solitary. So there just doesn't feel like there's enough evidence to me that there are two different species. But I'm also not a pterosaur expert, so there may be things that I just don't know about, and I just didn't have the right information to try and look that up either. So, I don't know, maybe a pterosaur person can tell me what they've found, because they were giving a few morphological differences, but those morphological differences felt like they could be more onto genetic differences. So, I don't know. So, Quetzalcoatlus is estimated at about 15 to 20 feet, or 4.5 to 6.1 meters tall. It's about as tall as a giraffe. And they would have a wingspan of roughly 33 to 36 feet, or 10 to 11 meters, which would make it have a wingspan about the same as a fighter jet, which is super cool if you think about it. The most recent weight estimates they give are about 330 pounds, or about 150 kilos. Now, Quetzalcoatlus is a pterosaur, and as such, it belongs to the sauropsid clade, or reptilia. Within that clade, it's part of the diapsid clade, so it has two temporal fenestrae in its skull. And furthermore, it is in the Archosaur clade. Within Archosauria, it is in the Ava metatarsalia clade alongside with their cousin, the dinosaurs. So they're pretty close. Within Pterosauria, it's part of the Asdarchidae, which is the group with the largest pterosaurs that ever lived. So they're big-headed, short-bodied pterosaurs with no teeth. Like other pterosaurs, Quetzalcoatlus had light hollow bones that were supported internally by struts called trabeculae. This is a human bone with trabeculae, because, surprise, surprise, all bones have trabeculae. They're just, like in humans, they're in concentrated areas, typically at the ends of long bones. But in sauropods, I'm not talking about sauropods. Pterosaurs have them all throughout. It had a long, stiff neck that didn't allow for much bending, but it still had an impressive range of motion. Like you can see with some of the models, it's able to put its head up and down and side to side and all of that. But it's not going to be like shoving its head up in a carcass like a vulture. It doesn't have that kind of bend. So Quetzalcoatlus and other Asdarchids have forelimb and hind limb proportions that are similar to modern running ungulate mammals, which implies that they were well suited for a terrestrial lifestyle. In fact, some paleontologists don't think that Quetzalcoatlus spent any time in the air at all, while others argue that it most certainly had the musculature and ability to fly. They would be able to use their much more robust humerus. Their femur was honestly kind of sad for a femur. They would use that humerus to push off the ground, and it would send them at least 8 feet up into the air, which is just enough space for them to be able to start flapping those wings and get them the lift they needed. So seems that it was absolutely possible. Those that do believe that they could fly believe that their short, broad wings were designed for terrestrial flight, much like broad-winged hawks and eagles that spend a lot of their time soaring over the landscape rather than over oceans or anything like that. This is an example of a red-tailed hawk. They have short, broad wings, which are perfect for soaring on thermals over terrestrial landscapes. Trackways attributed to Asdarchids have been found showing that they were quadrupedal and walked much like a giraffe, with limbs on one side of the body moving roughly together, like this little demo shows. Honestly, I think it's the cutest thing, isn't it? Now, Q. Northropi was probably an omnivore, picking up prey or fruits as it stalked the riparian woods of its home, not unlike, say, a stork or a ground hornbill, just kind of sweeping and grabbing what it could. Meanwhile, it seemed that Q. lawsoni would have congregated around alkaline lakes, kind of like shorebirds today, and probably would have been feeding much the way those shorebirds did, wading into water and scooping up crustaceans and little fishes and things like that, whatever lives in the water. Baby dinosaurs, if they, happen to walk by and be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about Quetzalcoatlus as much as I did, having found all this cool stuff on Quetzalcoatlus. Some that I knew and some that I did not. We have about a week and a half left of this month. So I hope you have a good weekend and tune in Monday for one last medal before the month ends. And I will fossilize you later.